My name is Gerald, but everyone calls me Grandpa G. I'm 63 years old, and I used to believe that gratitude meant respect. That belief ended the day my son thanked me for everything. Not casually, not in passing. He sat across from me, looked me straight in the eyes, and started listing things I'd done for him. Years of sacrifice, late nights, money I never asked back for, support I gave without conditions. That alone should have felt good. But it didn't, because the words felt practiced, like he'd said them out loud before. Just not to me. And when someone thanks you like they're reading from a script, it's usually because the real conversation hasn't started yet. I remember thinking how quiet the room felt, how his hands stayed folded, how he waited until the very end to say it. "I just need one last thing from you, Dad." That's when I understood this wasn't appreciation. It was positioning. In that moment, I realized this wasn't about the past at all. It was about what he wanted to control next. I'm going to tell you what he asked for, why the timing mattered more than I first realized, and how that single request revealed a plan that had been building for far longer than I knew. But before I continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? To everyone who keeps listening, thank you. Your support reminds me I'm not alone in this. And if this is your first time here, take a moment to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This isn't just a channel. It's a place where stories like mine finally get told honestly. Now, let me tell you what that one last thing really meant. It was a Tuesday evening when Jude came to my house. Not our usual Sunday dinner. Not a holiday. Just a random Tuesday in October, which should have been my first warning sign. My son doesn't do spontaneous. He schedules coffee meetings with his own wife. He brought Amanda with him. That was the second warning. Amanda's always pleasant enough. Polite smile, firm handshake, the kind of daughter-in-law who remembers birthdays but never stays past dessert. But that night, she sat beside him on my leather couch like a lawyer at a deposition. Silent, watchful. Her hands folded in her lap the exact same way his were. "Dad," Jude started, and I noticed he'd rehearsed even the pause that came after. I wanted to come by and just, "Thank you. Really thank you." I set down my coffee. "Thank me for what?" "Everything." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and that's when he started the list. The business degree I'd paid for when he couldn't decide between marketing and philosophy. The connections I'd made for him when he graduated and needed his first real client. The nights I stayed late teaching him how to read a contract, how to negotiate without showing desperation, how to build something that lasts. He even mentioned the loan I gave him 7 years ago to buy his first house. $42,000. I told him not to worry about paying it back. Family doesn't keep receipts. But he was keeping receipts now. Every word he said was accurate. Every memory he referenced was real. But it felt wrong, like watching someone perform a eulogy at a funeral for a person who's still alive. Amanda nodded along at perfect intervals. Not too much, just enough. I caught myself watching her instead of him, trying to figure out what role she was playing in this performance. When he finally stopped talking, the silence pressed in. I waited. That's something I learned in 40 years of running a consulting firm. Never fill the silence first. Let the other person show their hand. Jude cleared his throat. "The reason I'm bringing this up now," he said slowly, "is because I've been thinking about the future, about legacy, about what happens to Brennan and Associates when you're ready to step back." There it was. Brennan and Associates. The company I built from a spare bedroom in 1987. 3 employees. Now 60. Offices in 2 states. The thing I'd poured my life into when his mother, Mona, said I loved my work more than my family. Maybe she was right. "I'm not stepping back," I said carefully. I know. Jude held up his hands like he was calming a nervous animal. "I'm not saying now. I'm just saying we should start planning. A transition. Something smooth. Something that protects what you've built." He reached into the bag Amanda had been holding. That's when I saw the folder. Leather-bound, expensive, the kind of folder you use when you want someone to take you seriously. He placed it on the coffee table between us and slid it toward me. I had some documents drawn up, he said. Just a framework. It transfers 51% ownership to me over the next 6 months. You'd still have full operational control during the transition, and we'd structure it so there's no tax burden on your end. It's clean, it's smart, and it keeps everything in the family. I didn't touch the folder. You had documents drawn up. With Priscilla's help, yeah. She thought it made sense from a financial planning perspective. Priscilla, our CFO, the woman I'd mentored for 8 years, the woman who'd once told me I reminded her of her late father. Of course she was involved. I looked at Amanda. She gave me a small, encouraging smile, the kind you'd give a child who's afraid of the dentist. This feels rushed, I said. It's not rushed, Dad. It's been on my mind for a while. I just didn't know how to bring it up without it sounding like I was, I don't know, pushing you out. And this doesn't sound like that? His face tightened, just for a second. Then the smile came back. I'm trying to honor you, he said quietly. I'm trying to make sure that what you built doesn't fall apart because we didn't plan ahead. Don't you trust me? There it was, the question designed to corner me. If I said no, I was the bad guy, the paranoid old man who couldn't let go. If I said yes, I was signing away everything I'd built to a son who'd just thanked me like he was ticking boxes on a checklist. I looked down at the folder again. That's when I saw it. Jude's phone, sitting face up on the armrest beside him, lit up with a notification. Just for a second. Long enough for me to see the name. Priscilla. Office. And below it, part of a message. Did he agree? Need to know by... The screen went dark. Jude didn't even glance at it. But I did. And in that moment, sitting in my own living room with my son and his wife staring at me like I was a signature away from irrelevance, I made a decision. I smiled. Let me think about it, I said. Jude exhaled, relieved. Of course, take your time, no pressure. Liar. He stood. Amanda stood. They left 20 minutes later with promises to check in later that week. I sat in that living room for another hour, staring at the folder I never opened. And I started watching. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed of it either. Thursday night, 1:47 a.m., I parked 3 blocks away from my own office building and walked through the employee entrance using a key I wasn't supposed to have anymore. Security had been upgraded 2 years ago, Priscilla's idea, and technically my old access card shouldn't have worked. But I'm the one who hired the security company, and I'm the one who made sure there was always a back door. The building was silent in that specific way empty places are at night. Not peaceful. Just waiting. My footsteps echoed on the tile floors as I made my way past the reception desk, past the conference rooms where I'd closed 100 deals, and down the hall to Jude's office. He had the corner office now, the one with windows overlooking the city. I'd given it to him 3 years ago when he made senior partner, told him he'd earned it. Looking back, I'd been preparing my own irrelevance without even knowing it. I stood outside his door for a full minute, my hand on the knob, asking myself if I really wanted to do this, if I really wanted to know. Then I thought about that text message. Did he agree? I opened the door. Jude's office smelled like expensive cologne and coffee that had gone cold. His desk was neat. Too neat. The kind of neat that means someone's hiding something by making everything look perfect. I didn't waste time. I went straight to his computer, woke it up, and typed in the master password I'd installed on every company device 8 years ago after a data breach scare. It was a backdoor I'd never told anyone about, not even Priscilla, especially not Priscilla. The system let me in, and that's when my hands started shaking, because the first email I opened was from 6 months ago, from Priscilla Vaughn to Jude Brennan. Subject, timeline. We need him to sign before Q1. Julius confirmed he's ready to move on the client list as soon as we have operational control. Once your father steps aside, we restructure, phase him out quietly, and execute the partnership agreement. He'll never see it coming. This has to look like his idea. I read it 3 times. Then I opened the next one. From Jude Brennan to Priscilla Vaughn. Subject: RE Timeline. Amanda's on board. She thinks we can get him to agree by Thanksgiving if we position it as legacy planning. He's sentimental about that kind of thing. Let's schedule a sit-down for next week. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart. That would have been too clean. This was something worse. It was the part of me that still believed my son loved me more than he resented me. I kept scrolling. Emails between Priscilla and Julius Chen, my former protege, the man I'd trained 12 years ago before he left to start his own firm. The man I'd called a son when my real son was still trying to figure out what he wanted to be. They'd been planning this for 8 months. Every client account, every proprietary strategy I'd developed, every relationship I'd built over 4 decades. They were going to strip it all, transfer it to Julius's company, and sell it back to my own clients as upgraded services. Then I found the spreadsheets. Consulting fees paid to a company I didn't recognize. Small amounts, $2,000 here, $3,500 there, spread across 18 months. Always coded as third-party analysis or contract consulting. But the LLC that received the payments was registered to one person, Priscilla Vaughn. She'd been embezzling. Not enough to trigger audits, just enough to fund something on the side. I opened her sent folder, and there it was, an email to Amanda. Not Jude, Amanda. From Priscilla Vaughn to Amanda Brennan. Subject: Phase 2. Once the old man signs, we're free. Julius promised us double the revenue within a year. Jude's still squeamish about cutting Gerald out completely, but he'll come around once he sees the numbers. You were right. He just needed the right push, and the right person pushing. I sat back in Jude's chair and stared at the ceiling. Amanda wasn't just part of this. She'd architected it. She'd met Priscilla. She'd manipulated my son. She'd turned my company into a hostile takeover from the inside, using my own blood as the weapon. I thought about every Sunday dinner, every holiday, every time she'd smiled at me and called me Dad. For a moment, just one, I wanted to put my fist through the monitor. But I didn't, because rage is easy, and what I needed now wasn't easy. I needed to be surgical. I copied every email onto a flash drive I'd brought. I took screenshots of the financial records. I documented everything, time-stamped and backed up in 3 separate locations before I even left the building. Then I wiped my access log from the security system and walked out the same way I came in. By the time I got home, the sun was starting to rise. I sat in my car in the driveway and thought about calling Jude, about asking him why, about giving him the chance to explain. But I already knew why, because I'd built something bigger than him. And instead of helping him build something of his own, I'd made him feel small. Maybe that was my fault. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, it didn't change what he'd done. I looked at the flash drive in my hand, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. I was going to let them think they'd won. And then I was going to take everything back. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my home office with every piece of evidence spread across my desk like a crime scene investigation, and I did what I've always done when the world tries to break me. I planned. By sunrise Friday morning, I'd made 3 phone calls. The first was to my lawyer, the second was to my accountant, the third was to the one person I swore I'd never ask for help again. Mona. My ex-wife answered on the 4th ring, her voice sharp even at 6 in the morning. Gerald, someone better be dead. Not yet, I said, but I need you. There was a long pause. I could hear her moving around, probably making coffee in that methodical way she always did. Mona never rushed. Even when our marriage was falling apart, she took her time deciding how to destroy me in court. You have 30 seconds to tell me why I should care about whatever mess you've gotten yourself into. Jude is trying to steal the company. Amanda and Priscilla are helping him, and I have proof. Another pause, longer this time. I'm listening. I told her everything. The emails, the embezzlement, the deal with Julius, the 8-month conspiracy that my own son had orchestrated to push me out of the business I'd built before he was even born. When I finished, Mona didn't say anything for almost a minute. Then, I want to see the evidence, all of it. And Gerald? Yeah? Don't do anything stupid before I get there. She hung up. 2 hours later, Mona walked into my house wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my first car. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, streaked with gray she didn't bother hiding. She looked at me the way surgeons look at patients before cutting them open. You look terrible, she said. Good morning to you, too. She set her briefcase on the dining room table and opened it with the precision of someone who'd spent 20 years dismantling corporate fraud cases. Show me what you have. I did. She read every email, examined every spreadsheet, cross-referenced dates and transaction amounts with the kind of focus that reminded me why I'd fallen in love with her 35 years ago. Finally, she looked up. This is airtight, she said. Priscilla's embezzlement alone is enough for criminal charges. The conspiracy with Julius could trigger breach of fiduciary duty claims. And Jude. She stopped. What about Jude? I asked. Mona's expression softened in a way I hadn't seen since our son was 12 years old and broke his arm falling out of a tree. Jude is complicit, she said quietly. But he's not the architect. Amanda is. Look at the timeline. She didn't meet Priscilla by accident at some networking event. Priscilla worked at Julius's firm 4 years ago before you hired her. This has been coordinated from the beginning. My stomach turned. You're saying they targeted him. I'm saying they saw a weak man with father issues and access to a multi-million-dollar company, and they built a plan around him. Jude's guilty, Gerald, but he's also a pawn. I sat down heavily. So, what do I do? Mona closed the briefcase. You do what you should have done 15 years ago when I told you that boy needed a father, not a mentor. You protect him, even if it means protecting him from himself. And how do I do that? She smiled. It wasn't kind. You let me handle the legal side, but first you need to do something they'll never expect. What's that? You sign the papers. I stared at her. You want me to give them the company? No, I want you to make them think you're giving them the company. Because here's what they don't know, Gerald. You still own the one thing that makes Brennan and Associates valuable. What? The intellectual property, your systems, your frameworks, every strategy you've developed over 40 years. You filed those separately through an LLC in 2003 when you were worried about liability lawsuits. Do you remember? I did. Vaguely. It had been Mona's idea back when we were still married. That LLC isn't part of Brennan and Associates, she continued. It's wholly owned by you, which means even if Jude controls the company, he's got nothing but empty offices and a client list. Without your IP, he can't deliver on a single contract. And when they figure that out, that's when we negotiate, from a position of strength. But first, we need more information. We need to know how deep this goes, who else is involved, and exactly what Julius is planning to do once he gets his hands on your clients. I thought about it. Then I thought about something else. There's someone at the office, I said slowly. Jude's assistant, Jane. She's been there 3 years. Quiet. Barely says a word in meetings. But she sees everything. Mona raised an eyebrow. You think she knows something? I think she's the only person in that building who hasn't lied to me in the past 6 months. Then talk to her, carefully. I nodded. That afternoon, I called Jude. Dad, hey, I was just about to reach out. Have you had a chance to look over the documents? I have, I said, and I've thought about what you said, about legacy, about protecting what I built. I could hear the relief in his voice. That's great. That's really great. I want to sign, I said, but I want to do it properly. Legal review, transition plan, the whole thing. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Dad, I really think we should move faster. 2 weeks, Jude. That's how long it takes to do this right. Unless you don't trust me? Silence. Of course I trust you, he said finally. Good. Then we'll schedule everything for the first week of November. I'll have Priscilla coordinate with my attorney. Another pause. Sounds perfect, Dad. Thank you. I hung up and looked at Mona. Now what? She was already typing on her laptop. Now, she said, we find out who Jane really is, and we make her an offer she can't refuse. You think Gerald's playing defense? He's not. He's playing chess while they're playing checkers, and the next move will blow your mind. The next introduces Jane, and what she reveals will make you question everything you thought you knew about this betrayal. But you'll only see it if you subscribe and smash that like button right now. Seriously, if you're not subscribed yet, you're missing the whole picture. Click it, do it now, because what Jane knows could either save Gerald's son or destroy him forever. Don't miss it. The email came through on Sunday morning. From encrypted address. Subject, we need to talk. Mr. Brennan, you don't know me, but I know what they're planning, and I know why. If you want the truth about your son, meet me tomorrow at the Riverside Public Library. 2nd floor, reference section. 2 p.m. Come alone. J. I showed it to Mona. She frowned. Could be a trap. Or it could be exactly what we need. Gerald? I'm going. Monday afternoon, I walked into the Riverside Library for the first time in probably 20 years. The smell hit me immediately. Old paper, floor polish, and that particular silence that only exists in libraries, the kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing. I took the stairs to the 2nd floor. She was sitting at a corner table near the windows, partially hidden by a row of shelves. Early 30s. Dark hair pulled back. Glasses. Wearing a cardigan that looked 2 sizes too big. The kind of person you'd walk past in a hallway and forget immediately. But her eyes weren't forgettable. They were calculating. Sharp. The eyes of someone who'd been watching for a long time. Mr. Brennan, she said quietly as I sat down. Thank you for coming. You're Jane. Jane Whitmore. I've been your son's assistant for 3 years. I remember you. She smiled sadly. No, you don't. Nobody does. That's been my advantage. I leaned back in the chair. Your email said you know what they're planning. I do, because I've been documenting it. She slid a flash drive across the table. Everything's on here. Emails I pulled from Priscilla's computer when she left it unlocked. Voice recordings from meetings I wasn't supposed to hear. Text messages between Amanda and Priscilla from a burner phone Priscilla left in the break room. Even financial records she tried to delete. I picked up the flash drive but didn't take my eyes off her. Why? Why am I helping you? Yeah. Jane took off her glasses and cleaned them slowly. When she put them back on, her expression had changed. Harder. Because Priscilla Vaughn destroyed my sister. That wasn't the answer I expected. Your sister? Megan Whitmore. She worked for Julius Chen's firm 5 years ago. She was 26, brilliant. She'd just made junior partner. Then Priscilla started working there, and suddenly Megan was making mistakes she'd never made before. Missing deadlines. Screwing up client accounts. Within 6 months, she was fired. I don't understand. Priscilla set her up, Jane said, her voice cold. Falsified reports. Sent emails from Megan's account. Made her look incompetent. She did it because Megan found out Priscilla was embezzling from Julius's firm and threatened to report her. So Priscilla destroyed her reputation before she could talk. Jesus. Megan couldn't get another job in the industry. She was blacklisted. Last year she tried to kill herself. She's okay now. She's alive. But she's not the person she used to be. Jane's hands were shaking. When I saw Priscilla's name on the job posting for Brennan and Associates 3 years ago, I applied. I made myself invisible. I listened. I watched. And I waited for her to show her pattern again. Because people like Priscilla don't change. They just find new victims. And my son was the perfect target. Brilliant but insecure. Desperate to prove himself to a father who's always 10 steps ahead. Amanda saw that weakness at a women's business conference 2 years ago. She and Priscilla had worked together at Julius's firm. This whole thing, your son, the company, the takeover, was designed from the start. I felt something cold settle in my chest. You're saying Amanda married Jude to get access to my company. I'm saying she married him because Priscilla told her to. Because Julius needed inside access to your client list and your proprietary methods. Your son was never the goal. He was the vehicle. I closed my eyes. Does Jude know? About Amanda? No. He thinks she loves him. He thinks this whole plan was his idea to finally step out of your shadow. He has no idea he's being played by everyone around him. Including me now. Jane didn't argue. I looked at the flash drive in my hand. What do you want out of this? I want Priscilla in handcuffs. I want Julius exposed for corporate espionage. And I want my sister to see that sometimes the bad guys actually face consequences. That's it? She hesitated. And I want you to save your son if you can. Because despite everything, Jude's not evil. He's just weak. Human, Jane corrected. He made a bad choice because someone he trusted told him it was the right one. That doesn't make him irredeemable. Just lost. I studied her face. Why do I feel like you're not telling me everything? Jane smiled. It was the saddest smile I'd ever seen. Because I'm not. There's one more person involved in this. Someone who's been funding the whole operation. Someone who's been waiting in the shadows for years to take you down. And when you find out who it is, Mr. Brennan, you're going to wish you'd never looked. Tell me. Not yet. First, you need to decide what kind of man you want to be at the end of this. The kind who destroys everyone, including his son, or the kind who's smart enough to separate the architects from the pawns. She stood up. There's a name on that flash drive. The last file. Don't open it until you've read everything else. And when you do open it, remember, revenge feels good in the moment, but it's what you do after revenge that defines whether you're still human. She walked away. I sat there for another 20 minutes, holding the flash drive, trying to process what I'd just learned. My son was a pawn. My company was the target. And somewhere in the shadows was someone who'd been orchestrating this for years. Someone who hated me enough to destroy everything I'd built. When I got home, Mona was waiting. What did she tell you? I handed her the flash drive. Everything. And something worse. Worse than your son conspiring against you? I thought about Jane's warning, about the last file, about the name I wasn't supposed to see yet. Yeah, I said quietly. Worse than that. I waited until Wednesday to open the last file, not because I was afraid of what I'd find, though maybe I should have been, but because I needed to be sure. Sure that I had every piece of evidence. Sure that I understood the full scope of what had been done to me. Sure that when I finally moved, it would be decisive. Mona sat across from me in my home office as I clicked the file. It was a single PDF, a bank statement from 2019. Wire transfers, 12 of them, each one for $25,000, all sent to the same LLC, the one Priscilla had used to embezzle from my company. But the transfers didn't come from Julius Chen's firm. They came from a personal account, an account belonging to someone I hadn't spoken to in 15 years. Account holder, Priscilla Vaughn and Gerald Brennan, Jr. My hands stopped moving. That's not possible, I whispered, but Mona was already leaning forward, reading the document. Gerald Jr., she said slowly. Your brother. My brother. The man who'd worked alongside me for 10 years before we had a falling out so catastrophic that we hadn't been in the same room since. The man who'd accused me of stealing clients from him, of sabotaging his career, of choosing the business over family. The man who told me at our father's funeral that he'd make sure I lost everything I loved, the same way he did. He's been funding this, I said, my voice hollow. The whole thing. Priscilla, Julius, all of it. Mona pulled up something on her laptop. Priscilla worked for Gerald Jr.'s consulting firm 8 years ago. Before Julius. Before she came to you. She was his protege. The pieces clicked into place like a puzzle I'd been solving in the dark. My brother had planted Priscilla in my company, had connected her with Julius, had orchestrated Amanda's introduction to Jude, had spent years positioning all the pieces just to watch me lose the one thing I had left. My son. He didn't just want the company, I said. He wanted me to feel what he felt when I stopped. Because the truth was, I didn't steal clients from him, but I'd been ruthless in those early years, competitive. I'd built my firm faster, smarter, better, and I'd done it while he struggled. Maybe I hadn't destroyed him deliberately, but I hadn't helped him either. "What are you going to do?" Mona asked. I looked at her, then at the evidence spread across my desk, then at my phone. "I'm calling a meeting," I said. "Friday afternoon, everyone in one room, and I'm ending this." Friday at 3 p.m., I walked into the Brennan & Associates main conference room for what I knew would be the last time as the man who built it. They were all there. Jude sat at the head of the table trying to look confident. Amanda beside him, her hand resting on his. Priscilla across from them, tablet in hand, ready to take notes like this was just another business meeting. And on the video screen, Julius Chen, calling in remotely, his face carefully neutral. Mona stood in the corner, briefcase in hand. Legal counsel, witness, executioner, and beside her, Jane, silent, watching. "Thanks for coming," I said, taking the seat at the opposite end of the table, the seat I used to occupy. "I wanted to talk about the transition." Jude exhaled, relieved. "I'm glad, Dad. Really. This is the right move for everyone." "Is it?" His smile faltered. I opened my own folder, started laying out papers, one by one. "See? I did some research this week. Wanted to make sure I understood exactly what I was signing over." I slid the first document across the table. "These are emails between you and Priscilla. 6 months' worth, discussing timelines, client transfers, how to phase me out quietly." Jude's face went pale. "Dad, I can explain." "Let me finish." I slid the next page. "These are financial records showing $38,000 in fraudulent consulting fees paid to an LLC owned by Priscilla. Money she embezzled from this company over 18 months. Priscilla stood up. "That's not—" "Sit down," Mona said. Her voice was a blade. Priscilla sat. I looked at Julius on the screen. "And these are contracts between you and Priscilla detailing the sale of my proprietary client strategies. Corporate espionage, breach of fiduciary duty, also illegal." Julius's face remained blank, but I saw his hand move off camera, probably ending the call. "Don't bother," I said. "We've already forwarded everything to your board of directors, and to the state attorney general's office." The line went dead anyway. Now I looked at Amanda. "And you." I slid a photograph across the table. "This is you and Priscilla at a business conference in 2021, 8 months before you met Jude, the same conference where you were introduced by Julius Chen, who, interestingly, paid for your ticket." Amanda's expression didn't change, but her hand slipped off Jude's. "You didn't fall in love with my son," I said quietly. "You were assigned to him." Jude turned to her, his voice breaking. "Amanda?" She didn't answer, just looked at me with something like respect in her eyes. "Who told you?" she asked. "Someone who understands what it's like to be a weapon." I nodded toward Jane. Jude looked at his assistant, at Jane, at the woman who'd been invisible for 3 years. "You?" "Me," Jane said simply. I stood up. "Here's what's going to happen. Priscilla, you're fired. Effective immediately. Security is outside. They'll escort you out. If you're smart, you'll hire a lawyer before the DA files charges." Priscilla's face crumpled, but she didn't move. "Julius, your firm will be audited. Your clients will be notified of the breach. Good luck salvaging your reputation." I turned to Amanda. "You have 48 hours to move out of Jude's house. You signed a prenuptial agreement 3 years ago. One I made sure protected my son even if he didn't protect himself. You get nothing. And if you ever contact him again, I'll make sure every firm in this industry knows exactly who you are." Amanda stood, smoothed her skirt, and walked out without a word. Now it was just Jude, my son, sitting at the table, staring at his hands. "And me?" he whispered. I sat down beside him. "You made a mistake," I said. "A big one. You let people manipulate you because you were too busy resenting me to see what was happening. But you're still my son." He looked up, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry." "I know. I thought I was finally taking control. I thought—" "You thought you were becoming your own man," I finished, "but you were just trading one master for another." He broke then. Completely. Put his face in his hands and sobbed. I let him. When he finally stopped, I handed him a tissue. "I'm restructuring the company," I said, "bringing in outside management, creating a trust that will eventually benefit any children you might have. But you won't have operational control. Not now. Maybe not ever." "I understand." "Do you?" He nodded. "Then prove it. Not to me. To yourself. Figure out who you are when no one's telling you what you should be. And when you've done that, if you've done that, maybe we can try again." I stood up. Jude grabbed my hand. "Dad, did you mean it? That I'm still your son?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the boy who used to bring me drawings from school. At the teenager who tried so hard to impress me. At the man who'd let his desperation turn him into someone he wasn't. "Yeah," I said. "I meant it." I found my brother on a Sunday morning. He was living in a small house outside Richmond, running a 2-person consulting firm that barely broke even. When he opened the door and saw me standing there, he didn't look surprised. "Took you long enough," Gerald Jr. said. We sat in his kitchen. He made coffee. We didn't speak until the cups were poured. "Why?" I finally asked. He stared into his mug. "Because you won," he said simply. "You always won. Every client, every deal, every time I tried to build something, you built it bigger, faster, better. And Dad, our father, he looked at you like you were the miracle and me like I was the mistake. So you tried to destroy me using my own son. I tried to make you feel what I felt, abandoned, irrelevant, watching the thing you love most slip away because someone you trusted put a target on your back." His voice cracked. "Did it work?" I thought about Jude, about Amanda, about the company I'd almost lost. "Yeah," I said. "It worked." We sat in silence. "I'm not pressing charges," I said finally. He looked up, surprised. "Priscilla will face consequences. So will Julius. But you, I'm not interested in watching my brother go to prison. I'm just tired." "Why?" "Because revenge doesn't fix anything. It just makes more broken people. And we've got enough of those already." Gerald Jr.'s hands shook as he set down his coffee. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For all of it. I'm sorry." "I know, and I'm sorry too. For not being the brother you needed. For making you feel like you had to compete with me instead of just existing beside me. Can we fix this?" I stood up. "I don't know. But maybe that's okay. Maybe some things don't get fixed. They just get survived." I walked to the door. Stopped. "Take care of yourself, Gerald. You too." I left him there. 6 months later, I received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a check, $5,000, from Jude, with a note. "First payment. Not because you asked, because I need to." I didn't cash it. I put it in a drawer next to the others he'd sent, one every month, like clockwork. I thought about calling him, about inviting him for coffee, about trying to rebuild what we'd broken. But not yet. Some things take time. Instead, I looked at the photo on my desk. Young Jude, maybe 8 years old, holding up a fish we'd caught together. His smile was real, unguarded. Maybe someday, I said to the empty room. And for the first time in months, I believed it might actually be true. The company's doing fine. Jane runs operations now. Mona consults on strategy. I show up twice a week, mostly to remind everyone that I'm not dead yet. And Jude, he's working at a nonprofit, building houses for low-income families, learning, he told me in a brief email, what it means to create something that isn't about winning. My son thanked me for everything, then asked me for one last thing. What he didn't know was that the last thing I'd give him was the hardest gift of all, the space to become the man he was supposed to be, without me standing in his way. So that's where Gerald's story ends, for now. Was he right to give Jude another chance? Would you have forgiven your brother? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you would have done. And if this story made you think, if it challenged you, if it reminded you that family is complicated and forgiveness is messy and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just let go, then please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Because I've got more stories coming. Real stories, human stories. Stories about betrayal, resilience, and the quiet courage it takes to keep going when everything falls apart. Don't miss them. Subscribe now. Turn on all notifications. And thank you, truly, for being here with me through Gerald's journey. Your support means everything. See you in the next one. Grandpa G.